G'day there guys, it's Markee and Trousers back again for another episode of r/Am I the A-hole. Now I know you love this little devil, so I want you to hit that like button if you love Trousers. Say hi. Sit back, relax, chuck a prawn to the Barbie, and get ready for some bloody good content. Thank you. Posted by user cdevelopment60, titled, Am I the A-hole for going on a camping trip instead of staying home with my pregnant wife? Now, I know the title might sound bad, but the story is that 12 years ago, myself, 32 male, my younger brother and our two close friends started a tradition that every year we go on a camping trip together. We weren't able to the past 2 years because my wife, 29 female, and I had our first child in 2019. And last year obviously wasn't a great time to be taking trips. So this year, me, my brother, and our friends agreed on going camping. I told my wife, who was currently 25 weeks pregnant, about it 3 weeks before, and she wasn't happy. She said I can't just leave her alone while she's pregnant. She said that she's anxious because our daughter was born premature at 27 weeks, and that she's scared it's going to happen again with this pregnancy, and that I wasn't going to be there with her. I reminded her that this camping trip was only going to be for 2 days. I'm only a few hours away, and that I highly doubt anything is going to happen while I'm gone for the weekend. She told me, do whatever you want. I went camping last weekend, and when I came home, my wife has been in a bad mood ever since. I tried to discuss it with her because I don't understand why she's so mad at me, and she tried saying that I never prioritize her, and that I need to grow up because I'm a dad now. Then she proceeded to call me a self-absorbed asshat. I feel guilty now. She and my daughter have always been my first priority and my main focus. All I did was go away for 1 weekend. Am I the arsehole? I'm gonna say yes, you are. They should be your first priority here, and you've shown that even if you're only going away for a few days, you can't sympathize with your wife and your child. If she's not okay with you going, that should kind of be end of story. I know it's like, oh, they can't dictate everything you do and they can't stop everything you do in a relationship, but this is a particularly sensitive relationship. He is a dad now, and he does need to step up and be there all the time for them. This is one of those relationships where you have to be on call 24/7. Yes, it's good to have time away. Yes, it's good to go see friends and chill out and have a camping weekend, but now is not the time. Your wife has made it clear that now is not the time, and forcing yourself out of the house and away from her would be a really bad move. So if you've been on that trip already, you're the a-hole. If you are about to go on that trip and you're still second-guessing yourself, you would be the a-hole if you do it. Now in the comments, Beautiful Concern 144 says, ordinarily, I would say at 25 weeks she can manage, but if you have history of a 27-week preemie, then yeah, you're the a-hole. Did the trauma of the first time around escape you? Does the stress your wife must be under hoping not to go through that again not mean anything? I had a 31-weeker, and the whole situation was the most physically and emotionally traumatic situation I've ever been through. I've never felt so helpless and frightened. I will not put myself through another pregnancy because I can't risk it happening again. Your wife must be working really hard to be strong, and for you to just bugger off with your mates at such a vulnerable time is definitely a major a-hole move. I read the title and was prepared to say that you weren't the a-hole, but boy was I wrong. Premature birth can be terrifying, and coming up on a point in a pregnancy where something went wrong the last time is a special kind of torture. It wasn't just a weekend. She let you know she was scared and anxious and vulnerable, and you completely dropped the ball. Not to mention what she would have been feeling if she had gone into premature labor without you there. Stop saying your wife and child are your first priority and make them that. You're the a-hole. The coming up on a point in the pregnancy when things went south previously is probably as much of a stressor as coming up on the age when your parent died. I know several people who had an off year with a lot of stress because of that, and it even affects myself, since my mum died at 41 and I'm 44. Let's just say that sort of thing is stress-inducing. OP has a bad case of lack of empathy, so OP, you're the a-hole. She and my daughter have always been my first priority and my main focus. All I did was go away for one weekend. These sentences contradict each other. You're the a-hole. Yep, OP also prioritizing tradition over his marriage. Wouldn't be surprised if the wife eventually leaves him unless OP changes his behavior. You're the a-hole. You ignored your pregnant wife's wishes so you can go camping. Clearly she's not a priority. At the time you went, she was roughly 5 to 6 months along, which is when it starts getting difficult for her to do things on her own, including looking after your daughter. You need to do something special for your wife, who is going through a lot hormonally and mentally, so that she knows you prioritize her. So I think that's where I'm going to leave that one. What do you guys think of this down in the comments? I feel like it's, I don't know, pretty clear that they're the a-hole, but what do you guys think? Our next post is by user ThrowRA81234, titled, Am I the a-hole for bailing on moving in with my sister after being told I could only use half of the house? So my sister bought a house with her boyfriend last year. They got a mortgage, and when they broke up, he managed to wriggle his way out and leave her to keep paying the mortgage alone. She's making the payments, but barely. And she's had money issues that means that she's at the point where she can't afford dinner some nights. Obviously, we, my mum, dad, me and siblings, are worried about her, and we want to help her out. My current lease runs out at the end of the month, and half her mortgage is way less than the average rent in the area, so we talked and agreed that I, along with my 3 kids, would move in with her for a while. I would pay rent, which would cover half of her monthly mortgage payments and utilities, and we'd buy our own food, but we'd still share. This way, she gets her mortgage paid off, my kids and I get to live in a nice house at below average rate, and we know that my sister is doing okay, financially and mentally. However, with less than a month before the move, we talked today to just get up to speed on how everything is going on her end, as she has to rearrange a few things so we can move in. She said, your half is all sorted. I asked what she meant. There are 2 bedrooms and a bathroom on each floor, so she was thinking that we could have the upstairs and she could have the downstairs. I asked what happens with the kitchen, and she explained that she'll have exclusive use of the kitchen, and when I bring my stuff over, we could set up a kitchenette, a microwave, kettle, and mini fridge on the top floor. I asked where my kids were meant to sleep, and she said my daughter could sleep in my room and my sons could bunk together. My understanding before this was that I get my own room, as does my daughter, and there are no limits on the floors, bathrooms, and kitchen. As my sister had said that there were 4 bedrooms, there was enough room for everyone. And I mentioned rearranging the rooms, so I assumed that meant that she was taking the fact that I'm bringing 3 kids into consideration. She said as I'm paying for half of everything, I get half the house. I said that my kids and I can't share 2 bedrooms and a microwave, and she said I was being dramatic and will be fine. However, I said that this isn't going to work for us, and if she wants us to move in, we're going to need to condense her office and bedroom into one, so my daughter can have the free room plus use of the kitchen. My sister said that as we would be using the majority of the house, I should pay at least 75% of the mortgage, possibly 100%, as there's 4 of us and 1 of her. I then said that this really is not going to work for us, so I will look for a new place with my kids and she can figure her money out herself. She then called me an asshole, as she could lose the house without my help, said I was holding money over her head, and said I was entitled to think that I would get more than half the house when I'm only paying 50% of the mortgage. I said she's the one setting restrictions, and if I'd known that I was only paying for the top floor, then I wouldn't have agreed to move in. Am I the a-hole? Info: my sons are 11 and 3 years old, my daughter is 5. My sister said if I paid 75% of the mortgage, I could either have a 3rd room or kitchen access, and 100% gets me 3 rooms and kitchen access, which is the point that I said this would not work out. I really want to go for a not the a-hole judgment for this one because I really feel for you, but because of the lack of communication from both of you guys, you even self-admit it here, I'm gonna have to go with everyone sucks here. Lack of communication always makes everyone an asshole in these situations. I'm gonna continue on that theme. Yes, you may not inherently be a bad person, but if you fail to communicate that you wanted all of these bedrooms and you just assumed that she was going to give them over, then yeah, I agree, you made mistakes here. You need to be accountable for those. I think the blame also lies on your sister for saying you can't use the kitchen either, you can just have a kitchenette upstairs. Absolutely moronic, and what the hell kind of world is she living in? I agree with her in that she keeps her office and her room separate. I assume she's working from home. That's reasonable. But to say they can't even come downstairs, you can't use my kitchen. You can use a microwave and a bloody kettle. My God, if I'm paying half your mortgage, I don't want to be living in a bloody motel. I think the sister is delusional in that aspect. I think she failed to communicate with you, and you failed to communicate with her your needs with your kids. I understand it's really hard. You shouldn't be forced into a room with one of your kids, and two kids shouldn't be forced to live together in a room together. That is cramped. That's just, breeding toxicity. That's like fights are gonna happen, especially with those age differences. The best solution here is just not to move in with her at all and find somewhere else. Yes, it screws her over financially, but she can always find other people to move into those rooms and split the costs. So I'm gonna have to go with everyone sucks here for this one. Now in the comments, again Painted Inky says, everyone sucks here. Sounds like a massive lack of communication and both parties being unreasonable. You're unreasonable in that it makes 100% sense for you, paying only half the mortgage, to only get half the bedrooms to split between you and your kids and no more. There's no reason at all that she should have to lose her office, getting less than half of the bedrooms, while still paying half. It was out of line to just assume that you'd get more than your fair share of the bedrooms without paying more than half the cost, and without there ever having been any such agreement. She is completely right that if you want 75% of the rooms, you need to pay 75% of the bill. Were you expecting to only pay half of the utilities too, despite the fact that you and your kids would obviously be using more water and electricity than her? But the sister is unreasonable to extending this to the entire house. Areas like the kitchen should obviously be shared as common areas, and unless she plans to pay to install a full kitchen exclusively for you, the kitchen as it is needs to be shared. Not having a full kitchen to use is not you getting half of the house, it's you getting less than half. She's ridiculous to expect you to pay half or more, yet get less than half of the use of the house as a whole. Honestly, this should have been worked out way before it got to this close to move-in time, but it is at least good that you figured it out before moving in at all. Even though I give you both a-hole points, it's really best that you both not move in together, and backing out is absolutely the correct move. And edit, because people keep bringing up equity as if it's remotely relevant here, I'll just copy and paste my previous comment. If, for instance, an owner was to rent the property in its entirety to someone, the market rent would actually be greater than the mortgage, over 100%, with the owner getting not only the equity, but also a profit on top of that. That is market rate. If the sister did not own the house, but was a renter, she'd need to add OP to the lease, and they'd both pay 50% for 50% of the rooms, with neither of them getting the equity. Basically, as the owner of the property, the sister can set rent however she wants, and charging only 50% for 50% of the rooms is just at cost with zero profit, rather than the actual market rate, which is more than fair. It's downright generous as far as renting goes. If OP would want half ownership of the house and thus the equity, then OP would have to be willing to pay half the total home value, not just half the remaining mortgage payments, but also half of all past payments and the original down payment as well, including all taxes and fees. And the whole house would have to be refinanced to put OP on the mortgage loan, so OP's credit is also at stake, just like the sister's. And then she'd still only be paying for half the bedrooms. And OP isn't doing that. Rose Fur Coat says, not the a-hole. Sis can go look for a lodger for the upstairs plus microwave, and you can find accommodation for you and your kids that doesn't involve any type of bait and switch, where everyone has a bedroom and you have use of an actual kitchen, and where, as an added bonus, the landlord doesn't call you dramatic and an a-hole before you've even moved in. Oh, and to all the comments about how if you're only paying half the mortgage, you shouldn't expect access to more than half the house. Even if you were paying 100% of the mortgage, the point would be that your sister gets to keep her house. A portion of every dollar that you'd have been paying would be going towards paying off her mortgage and reducing the principal that she owes on that house. To say a 50-50 split should give you access to only 50% of the house is to look at it in a very flawed way, which you are getting nothing out of the arrangement other than the immediate accommodation, while your sister is, or would be, getting equity in the property and continuing to be a homeowner. Not the a-hole, and you're right. The equity on the house is why this is different than normal renting. The sister is getting the benefit of being able to eat and live life with less financial stress, while also gaining equity. The benefits at hand aren't just about space like they'd be with a normal roommate situation. Also, not letting people staying in your home use the kitchen is ridiculous. And Feathery Morons asks, Info. Has your sister ever shared rent on a house? If so, was only one of the renters allowed to use the kitchen? I can sort of understand the bedroom thing, but to not let you use the kitchen, what the hell? And OP replies, she only had communal living before buying the house. I know before she moved in with her boyfriend, she had a nightmare roommate. So maybe this is a boundaries thing? But that was 5+ years ago, and we've lived together as kids and managed to share space fine. If she got lodgers in to help with her mortgage, i.e. not family, they would have to have access to the kitchen. Your sister is being completely unrealistic and unreasonable to say that you can't use it. I think you could deal with only having 2 bedrooms, but I do think this is ridiculous as well, but tell her that no access to the kitchen is a complete deal breaker. Does she want help or not? Because she's throwing that help down the toilet at the moment. Her only other option, as far as I can see, is to rent out all 3 of the spare bedrooms, but then she'd be renting to complete strangers, all of whom would have access to her kitchen. Her choice, and I know what I'd do. So what do you guys think of that one? Seems a bit complicated to me, and I'm glad that I haven't had to be in this situation yet. I imagine I might have to in the future, who knows? Have you guys had experience? Let me know in the comments. Our next post is by user It's My Deck, titled, Am I the a-hole for essentially telling my neighbor to F off after she asked me to stop smoking on my deck? That's pretty much it, but I'll provide some more context. This happened tonight. I went out on my back deck for a smoke, and I could hear that my next door neighbors were having some people over on their deck. There's a fence separating us, so I couldn't see them. I'm not close with my neighbors, but we've never had any problems before. So then my neighbor calls over to me and asks me to stop smoking because her pregnant sister was over and didn't want the second-hand smoke. My first thought was, frick no, but I politely told her that I was on my own deck and that I wanted to finish my cigarette, but to have a nice night. She gets pissed off and is all, I've dealt with second-hand smoke from you since we moved here and never once said anything. And that she was asking me this one time, as if I'm this goddamn demon for smoking. I never knew that she had a problem with my smoking, and I just honestly don't give a crap. It's my yard, and I can smoke an effing cigarette if I want to. So I yell at her exactly that, and she starts to yell back, but her husband tells her to shut up and they go inside. So I stay outside, pissed AF, and finish my cigarette before I go inside and told my roommate what happened. I kind of expected her to be on my side because she's also a smoker, but she told me that I should have made a one-time exception for the pregnant woman and that I acted like a bear. I don't think it's right for her to tell me what to do on my property, but now I'm feeling kinda guilty. Not that guilty, but kinda. Am I the a-hole? And here again we see another failure of communication, except this time OP did get the message and chose to respond not in kind. Very much not kindly at all. Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, OP. I understand that she can't tell you what to do and she's never had a problem before. I just don't understand why you decided to warp that into, you've not had a problem before, so you can't stop me now, asshole. and then further extrapolated from there that it's okay for you to just yell and curse them out and say, I don't care if she's pregnant, I'm gonna smoke and I'm gonna go inside, I'm gonna finish what I'm doing. The fact that your roommate is a smoker as well and likely has common interests with you there, but still doesn't back your attitude, speaks volumes about the interaction. Your response to a kind, one-off request that probably wasn't going to be asked again was to go in guns blazing and just destroy whatever shred of reputation you had with your neighbors. Congratulations, wow, you must be fun at parties. I would feel bad if I was you, I would feel guilty, and I would apologize, and I wouldn't smoke around a pregnant person, especially when they asked you, please don't smoke around this pregnant person. Maybe just remove yourself from the situation. Go to the front of the house, smoke over there. I don't know, but you're the a-hole. Now in the comments, Aggressit Medendo says, you're the a-hole. She asked you to stop, articulated why, and you responded with hostility. If you were close enough to talk like that on your respective decks, I'm assuming you're in townhouses or apartments where you're in close proximity. In these cases, your smoke doesn't stay on your property and is why many places prohibit that, since cigarette smoke easily encroaches on other properties. Either way, someone asked you to hold off from smoking near a pregnant woman and you got hostile, acting as if she's barking out unreasonable demands. Gotta say, I live in a private home on a quarter acre, and I can chat with my neighbors on their back deck while I'm on mine. I bought a house and I don't think anyone has the right to tell me what I can and cannot do on my own property. I'm not gonna naked sunbathe in front of the neighbors' kids, but having a smoke at your own house? Look, there are plenty of things that are illegal to do on your property. You can't set booby traps, for example. You can't dump toxic chemicals in your grounds. There might be noise limits during certain times of the day, etc., etc. Beyond that, there's a difference between legally being allowed to do something and still being an asshole for it. I don't think I would go as far as to call OP an a-hole, but it's pretty standard for 100% of smokers to vastly underestimate how bad their smoke smells and how far it travels. Can confirm. Smoked for 24 years, and when I quit, I was shocked at how horribly strong it smelled. I had no idea it was that bad. Was just about to write this. I was a smoker for only 5 years and quit 12 years ago. But even now, I can smell smoke if someone is 10 feet away. Smokers really underestimate how strong the smell is. You're the a-hole. I'm a smoker. I feel like it's always important to realize how foul the smell can be for other people. They've never said anything before. You could have made an exception just once, or at least there was no need to blow up like this when she seems to have just asked. You don't have to put out your smoke, and you can do what you want on your property, but if everyone behaved like that, life would be a nightmare. I'm a smoker, and I would have put it out the second I was asked, even before the very valid reason why they asked. So OP didn't, already rude, but technically right, but then escalating like that with a neighbor? Double you're the a-hole. And going back to the top of the post, they actually put some updates in here, so I'm going to read them out. Update: as of this morning, my kinda guilty feeling has thankfully subsided, and I'm completely fine with how the entire interaction went down. Thanks for all the love. Seems a mix of not the a-hole and you're the a-hole, so I'm just going to chalk it up to reasonable people can disagree. Oh, and special shout out to the people telling me that smoking is a nasty habit that causes cancer. I guess we learn something new every day. You're all so helpful, smiley face. And update, as of this afternoon, I was banned for not accepting my judgment. Fair enough, honestly. I don't accept that I was the a-hole at all. I would just delete this post to spare you all from having to lecture me on how gross smoking is, but deleting an active discussion is against the sacred rules, so have at it. I'll be outside, smoking. Smiley face. Anyway, our next post is by user LA Academy, titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my partner his opinion doesn't matter if it's about me? So my partner and I have been together for nearly 2 years, and while we aren't anywhere near ready, we've both previously talked about how we'd both like to have children someday. In my previous relationship, my ex regularly mentioned how he didn't want children, whereas for me, I would love to have children someday. So these conversations with my current partner always left me excited for the future when we'd have a family of our own someday. This morning, there was a conversation, not an argument, about the bathroom. My partner commented about how I lock the top of the deodorant spray, and I replied about how they don't put the top back on the toothpaste. I didn't think much of the conversation, but my partner followed it up with, "I don't think you have the temperament to have children." I asked for clarification, and my partner told me that they had thought this for a while. They think I'm too precise and particular, that I wouldn't be able to deal with the inevitable chaos and unpredictability that follows a child about. They could see I was hurt and apologized for hurting me, but didn't take back the comments. I will say at this point that my day job is a hospital pediatrician, and I consider myself incredibly patient and considerate of children. It's probably apparent that I was quite hurt by the statement, but I thought about it for a few minutes and decided that I didn't believe what my partner had said. I can't deny that I'm neat and like everything to be my way, but I'm under no illusions about how life changes when a child comes along, and would be prepared to make whatever changes were necessary for my child. I told my partner that I'd heard what they said, but they weren't right. I told them they didn't need to worry about upsetting me because I was sure that they were wrong. I said, "It doesn't matter what you think because you are wrong." My partner paused for a few seconds, then said what they think surely matters a bit. I told them that if it was about me, it doesn't matter what their opinion is because I know who I am. Now my partner is upset and won't speak to me for dismissing their opinion. I know I responded more bluntly than I would have normally done because I was hurt myself, but I also felt that I needed to defend myself from what I felt to be an attack. Am I the a-hole? OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the a-hole. I may have gone overboard in defending myself and hurt my partner in the process. I think both of you are to blame for this situation. I can see arguments for you being not the a-hole here because his comments came out of nowhere and it was unnecessary and uncalled for, but you're in a relationship. If you are wanting to have a child together, these things need to be sorted out well before that even starts to happen. If you can't rebut your partner, ask him what the hell he means by that and get him to understand that you're not childish, that you don't have a bad temperament and that this is just a temporary conflict, then I don't think you guys are compatible, at least in having a child together. Your response to this one is, I think, really silly. I don't think you should just say, "Your opinion doesn't matter, it doesn't affect me, there's nothing you can say to me that's gonna change my mind, I'm unchanged by all of this." That's not helpful in a relationship, and that just shows that you're not gonna listen to anything they say in the future. Obviously, that's not always the case, but saying that right now is not the way to deal with this argument. And then saying that just outright, you're not going to be able to deal with children, even though you work with children? Are you sure it's right to be having a child with this man? Your job is to look after kids. And he's saying outright that you don't have the temperament to look after kids. Are you sure this is the person you want to have a baby with? You know what, Markee? You could never be a narrator. You don't have the temperament to be a narrator. Even though you do YouTube videos day in, day out, I just don't think you have the temperament to be a narrator. Of course, that's just how it is, you know? I think everyone sucks here. I don't think this is too deep. I think this is just a few red flags that both you and your partner are putting up right here. You might want to deal with that. So I'm saying everyone sucks here. Now in the comments, Gwyn Hiblade says, "I'm gonna say everyone sucks here. Your partner was blunt in their opinion, which hurt your feelings. You were blunt in your response, which hurt their feelings. Fact is, both of you are wrong to a degree. Your partner is wrong to judge your ability to be a good parent based on your current temperament. As you pointed out, many people adjust when children enter the picture. You are wrong that their opinion doesn't matter when it comes to you. If you want to be in a relationship with them, and more importantly, if you want to have children with this person. Sure, if this is not your significant other, then their opinion doesn't matter. But if you're considering having children with this person, their opinion of your parenting abilities absolutely should matter. Please really, really think things through before you bring children into this relationship. If your parenting philosophies are fundamentally different, or if you can't respect each other's parenting styles and compromise, it's those poor children who will end up suffering. I agree with this completely. Looking between the lines here, your partner is letting you know that they don't think your personality and lifestyle will fit with their particular parenting philosophy. Might you change? Sure. Most people change. But your partner is probably looking at the fundamental aspects of who you are, that you're neat and orderly, and like things to be your way. Probably translating into the words uncompromising, bossy, stubborn, or similar. You will almost certainly not do a complete 180 if you have a kid. Does it mean that you'll be a bad parent? Nope, not at all. You'll likely be an awesome parent. But it might very well mean that you don't match your partner's idea of what kind of parent they want to be like. If you love this person, it might be worth sitting down and discussing what you both imagine parenting to be. What type of discipline, what are your priorities and opinions on different aspects of raising a child. You might be incompatible as future parents, which would be sad, but better to find out now. I like things neat and orderly. But I have higher expectations of my partner, who is a grown adult, than I do of my children. An expectation of an adult to be neat has absolutely nothing to do with parenting. Care 6 Bear 6 says, if you want children with your partner someday, then you absolutely should think their opinion matters about future parenting. They are voicing their concerns about why they don't think they want children with you. You shouldn't be dismissive of it because things like that are going to impact the future. You don't have to agree with their opinion, but definitely shouldn't dismiss it. It is a real concern to have. Not everyone can adapt to what parenthood brings, even though most think they can easily. That being said, the way they brought it up was pretty crappy. Something like that should have been addressed when it didn't come from anger or annoyance. It needed to be its own conversation. Everyone sucks here. Honestly, it's the people who have thought they could easily adapt who have had the hardest time doing so, in my experience. I've talked and worked with so many people who thought, I already work with children, I'm good around them. I know for sure I'll be good around my own children. Only to find out that being around a child 24/7 when it's their own is completely different. When it's at work, there's standards and guidelines and other people watching you. So of course you're on your best behavior and your brain adapts to that. You get to go home at the end of the day and relax away from them, even if you really enjoyed being with the kids at work. With your own children, it's just you and them all the time, and you have to figure out and deal. You have very little free time, very little rest, very little anything, and that makes it even worse. There's constant stress, constant annoyance, and sure, there's joy as well, but it's not as common, at least not in the first few months, and then the first 2 to 3 years. It's the people who know how hard things are going to be, who are so worried they go to the classes and buy the books and get therapy to try to fix themselves, who tend to end up being the best parents. I can't think of anything less productive and less healthy to say in a relationship than, your opinion doesn't matter. Your partner was blunt, but you responded by displaying exactly that immaturity that he's worried about. The conversation that started it all matters more than you think. He made a benign statement about bathroom products, and you went straight to, oh yeah? Well, what about you? Which also very much displays an emotional immaturity that would definitely become problematic if it is a pattern, as he claims it is. Everyone sucks here. But his opinion doesn't matter if OP decides to move on and find someone else to have children with, which is exactly what I would do if my partner revealed that they judged me so uncharitably, and had been for a long time. And to your second point, OP's response to the deodorant cap critique basically amounted to, why are you coming at me like this when you also have foibles? It was not the kind of escalation that merits the, oh yeah? Well, you shouldn't have babies as a response. Heads up, OP and his significant other are both men. And not the a-hole. Your partner is deliberately trying to make you feel bad about yourself and trying to turn it back around so that you're the bad guy. Most people think positively about their partners, and yet yours is picking on an important part of who you are and really how you are as a professional. He related the expectations he has of OP to that he would have to a child. Why? He isn't a child. Why does he want to be treated and coddled like one? He shifted the goalposts and deflected the conversation. He did so in a hurtful way to undermine OP and make them lower your expectations of him. He wants to treat OP like an adult, but for OP to coddle him and put the lid on the toothpaste for him, what the hell? Like a child. Side note, kids can put the damn toothpaste lid back on. I'm a bit conflicted about that one because as I go further down, there's so many more not the a-hole judgments here. I'm inclined to go with not the a-hole for this one as well, but I feel like it's safer to be everyone sucks here. I do feel like I've screwed up by saying you work with kids, you know how to deal with kids. I wasn't thinking about, hey, they're not your kids, you're not around them 24/7, and when you have your own kids, it's not in a professional environment. It's literally just you and the kid, and you have to deal with that 24/7. I admit I was short-sighted in that, but I'm gonna keep it in the judgment just to show that I can be wrong a lot of the time, as I am. I'd love to know what you guys think down in the comments below. I admit I went for some of the spicier stories for today's episode because, you know, it's better than just sorting by top and going for the easier stories. I love a little bit of controversy, and I know you guys do too, so let me know what you think down in the comments below. Alright guys, that's the end of the video. Friendly reminder that I'm now posting daily on my second channel, Markee too. If you want to laugh at memes with me, link is down in the description below. On phone, you just click that little arrow underneath the video. I also want to say thank you to all my channel members and Patreon subscribers. Your names are currently floating down the screen here, and I love to see all of you guys. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Thank you for supporting me. I really appreciate it. If you see yourself on screen, I want you to give yourself a big pat on the back for being amazing as always, and thank you for supporting me again. I do hope that you guys have a good day, night, sleep, whatever it is you're up to. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.